We're going to be making abstract cities today. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to be using perspective, but the nice part is because we're doing something that's abstract, which means not realistic, you can change and modify any of the things that you're doing so that you'll get more of that abstract look. So if your perspective isn't perfectly correct, it's okay. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a couple of different buildings, and then I'll show you kind of what is going to be expected of you. So what I always like to do is I make a line at the top somewhere, so that'll be the top of my building. Now because it's abstract, I don't necessarily need to make a vanishing point and have everything go to the vanishing point. My line right here, what I can do is I want my building, maybe I want my building to be sideways. So I can go like this. Now the idea behind this is we want to make the buildings three-dimensional, and right now it just looks like a flat shape. So what you're going to do is at the top of your building, you're going to make a diagonal line, and you can do it going this way or this way, it's up to you. And then you're going to make another one that is parallel with it, and then you're going to connect it. Now this is kind of what I like to call the cheater trick of how to do abstract and how to do perspective, and it's kind of just a way to treat your mind how to do it before you actually have to be, you know, perfect with it with the ruler. And then the side is just going to mimic down whatever you did, so it's going to look kind of like a 3D shape. Now the next thing we're going to do is we want to make a building that is super tall and you only see the front and the side. So we're going to have something that's a lot higher up, so I'm going to go maybe up here. And then this building, maybe I'll have it get super skinny at the bottom, like almost like an ice cream cone. And then because it's higher than this, you possibly wouldn't see the top, so I'm going to make a line down the side. So that'll be the front of my building and then the side. And then this side is going to go and it's going to get skinnier as it goes to the bottom so that it looks like it's a 3D shape. You can make round buildings. So you would start with an oval, and it would be kind of like drawing a cylinder. So you would draw lines down, and then depending on if it shows the ground or not, it would be rounded. We'll also do shapes, so like if you want to have them like the building's curvy or zigzag, maybe I want to have a building over here and I want to have it zigzag. Now the parts that are the most interesting is when you have buildings that are overlapping each other, because if they're all just right next to each other, it's going to look kind of boring. So we want to make sure we jazz it up and make it look kind of interesting. So if we have this overlapping this one, I am going to make two diagonal lines that are parallel at the top. That's going to show the top of my building and connect it. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the side. So the side is actually, I'm going to connect it every time it has a point. And that's going to give you that three-dimensional look to it so that it doesn't look like it's just a flat shape. Okay? Another thing you can do is you can make them curvy. So if I wanted to have a building over here, maybe I want a taller one here, I'm going to make it curvy. So I could be like, maybe I want it to curve over just to be kind of silly. And so have it kind of like that. Same rule applies. You're going to make it three-dimensional, and then you're going to go down the side. Okay? Now, in your picture, you need to have a minimum of 7 buildings and then a minimum of 7 extra things. Each of your buildings have to incorporate windows, and so when you go to make windows, if we're making this three-dimensional, I'm not just going to make a regular old squares going right down the front of my building, because it's not going to go with perspective. So what I usually recommend is if you go with the shape of your building, so like on the sides here, I'm going to just go along with the shape that I already have, and they tend to get smaller as they go to the bottom, just because they're actually following the building. Same thing with this. So this one, instead of making just a direct up and down square, I'm going to have it so it is parallel with the lines on the side of the building. So it actually kind of like leans. And then it's going to give you more of that three-dimensional look. Now the cool thing about this project is, so once you get all the windows done in the buildings, then what you're going to do is you get to have an abstract city idea. So which that means is you can have your city pretty much doing anything, and it doesn't have to be realistic. So if you want your city to be underwater, it can. If you want it up in the clouds, maybe you want your city being invaded by aliens. There's like tons of other options and so many fun things that you can do. Your buildings don't have to be just generic like this either. I'll show you an example too of some other things. But once you have your buildings completed, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna start adding the extra things. And so extra things are signs, things on the street. It can be people, just different things in like windows, flags, anything like that you would like to incorporate. The more variation you have of objects, the better it's going to look in the end. So let's say, for example, I want to have an airplane flying by, and I want it to have like one of those banners that says something like it's coming to my town. So the best way to do it is usually if you can find an image somewhere, usually clip art works to the best. But anyway, so this is my sad attempt at my plane. And then it's going to have a banner across it. And then it'll say, "Welcome to my town." Or "Welcome to my city," maybe. Okay. Other things I can add is I can add really like kind of cool shaped doors. So I can have like these curved doors. I can add in a road down here maybe. I could add in street signs. Whenever you're doing any of these things, try to incorporate, you know, three-dimensional too. So like my sign would be three-dimensional like that. You can also incorporate people. Please do not have naked stick figures running around your town. When you go to make your people, make sure that they have clothes on. So like, let's say I have a guy that just jumped out of the sky right here, and I'm gonna make a pool right here that he's gonna jump into. Now you notice I make that three-dimensional too. My poor little guy here is gonna have arms, legs, hands, feet, all that good stuff. So it's not just gonna be a stick figure. Now, because some of the drawings are so small, if you look, his hands and feet are just little circles, so it's nothing, you know, really detailed. He can have, you know, his crazy hair. Don't forget ears. Okay, and that could be considered one of my things that I incorporate as one of my extra things in my city. Okay, so those are the other things that you can incorporate. Now, once you're done with the drawing, you're going to be coloring it in using whatever material you have. Colored pencils seem to work the best. Here is one of the examples that I have of the colored pencil. And the idea is that if you blend the colors together, it's going to give you more of that 3D effect. So one of the ways you can do it is you can press darker in some of the sections and it can get lighter. The other thing too is you can blend colors together. So here what I do is I use colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So think about like colors that are next to each other on like a watercolor palette, how that goes, you know, like a rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And then that'll help you with picking colors that go next to each other. But you can do some really fun effects with the colored pencils if you'd like. This one has obviously a sign for my town. One of the other ones that I did that's not quite like this, so if you want to get really creative, I made a city that has different objects as my building. So I love Diet Pepsi, so I made a Diet Pepsi building. And then an E for Inga, and actually somebody's driving it, and then it has, you know, different parts on it. This is a palette. I actually named it the paint palette. And I have my people kind of going through town here. I have the brush building. I made a minion and tried to make him 3D so it looks like a building, and obviously the pencil point, and a little strawberry one. But you can do all kinds of different things. This one's called the single crayon. So if you don't want to make things that are just shapes, if you want to try something a little bit more intense and something that is going to be a little bit more challenging, this would be something that you could try, and you could stick with a theme too to make it even interesting. So this is just things that I like, and so that was kind of the theme for my city. But like I said before, you can choose things. Some people like to have like a Minecraft theme. or, something like that. So you can completely decide what you would like to do and how you would like to put it together. The main goal, though, is that things look three-dimensional and that it doesn't look flat. It actually looks like you could go into your city and you could be there and you could look around.